Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Total Retail Talks. I'm Joe Keenan, the editor-in-chief of Total Retail. I'm joined on today's episode by Monica Rigali, who is the Vice President Global Brand at JanSport. Monica and I are going to be discussing JanSport's efforts in attracting Gen Z shoppers and how kind of their product factors into that, as well as it looks to attract and retain Gen Z customers. We're going to talk also a little bit about its plans for the new year. So I want to take the opportunity to thank Monica Rigali for joining me on the show. Welcome, Monica.
Hi, Joe. It's really great to be with you.
So let's get us started by telling the audience a little bit about the JanSport brand. I think probably most are familiar with it, but just in case some aren't, can you give us a quick overview?
I sure can. So yes, you're right. Most people have either owned a JanSport or bought a JanSport as a gift or seen a lot of their friends around campus, around town in a JanSport. We have something like 90% brand awareness, and that's a pretty good spot to be in as a brand. We are America's #1 backpack, and the JanSport brand has been making packs in one way or another, in one form or another, since 1967. So JanSport has a long history and really rich heritage in making, top of the line, super durable, really aesthetically unique backpacks for more than 50 years. And we're kind of a household name in the backpack category, but also just as a brand. We really resonate with young people. And I think I have the best job in the world, Joe.
I think it is. And I know that, certainly when I think of JanSport, to your point, backpacks are the first product that comes to mind. And that you resonate with younger consumers, which we're going to talk about. One quick other follow-up on the initial question. I think it's also helpful for the audience just to learn a little bit more about the guests. So can you tell us a little bit about your professional background and your current role at JanSport, Monica?
Absolutely. So right now I lead the JanSport brand globally. So I oversee our marketing team, our product creation team, and our merchandising team. And we have visible presence in the United States, but we've also just launched in Europe. So I've got regional teams as well that I check in with from time to time, to really trying to manage that JanSport brand globally. Before JanSport, I worked for brands like Nike. I was at Nike for over a decade, where I really kind of earned my stripes as a marketer. And I also worked for Fox Sports for a while. I've being in the sports industry and really, coming up through sports has really been a kind of a pinnacle of how I go to market and how I look at marketing in general. Kind of that athlete marketing really made an impression on me. And I've kind of brought some of those tenets, some of those learnings into my current job at JanSport.
Yep, that's great. And obviously it gives you a lot of experience to rely upon, and we're going to tap into some of that knowledge in today's conversation. So as I noted in the beginning, I want to talk a little bit about the JanSport customer, and in particular the Gen Z consumer and how they really fit into the mix for JanSport when you think about acquisition. Can you kind of address that, Monica?
Absolutely. So at JanSport, we are really, really focused on youth culture and on student culture, because the majority of people who buy JanSport backpacks are usually buying them for school use. So we take a look at, who's in school right now. And that's kind of been a focus really every, since JanSport was originated back in the 60s. And we've made products and we've made JanSport packs mainly for students. So right now the student population is Gen Z. So we get really focused on a 14 to 22-year-old consumer and, try to understand what that person going through their youth and going through, school, whether it's middle school, high school, college, what they need. So we spend a lot of time understanding the needs of that kind of 14 to 22-year-old, and we try to craft JanSport's voice, marketing voice, to speak to kind of the sweet spot of that age range, which is like 16, 17, 18. So we do a lot of consumer research. We do a lot of social listening. We take a look at a trend, at the macro level, also at the very, micro level as well. We try and understand, what Gen Z is listening to, the content that they're absorbing, their consumer behavior, and really try to get focused, on speaking to them in a hyper relevant and authentic way. So yeah, we're pretty focused on that age range. That'll change obviously as Gen Z ages up and Generation Alpha, comes up behind Gen Z. But right now, it's really all about understanding the needs of that Gen Z consumer, and then trying to align with where they are and culturally, what's relevant to them.
Yeah, and I think you make an interesting point about kind of that sweet spot, because you think of the Gen Z and you called out kind of 14 to around 21, 22, the high school, an early stage high school student or a college student, might have a different perspective, and how they behave and consume things might be a little different. So finding that middle ground where you can kind of address a larger segment of that Gen Z audience, is that kind of the idea there, Monica?
Really, the idea is that every 13, 14, 15-year-old kind of wants to be older. That's one of the that's the human condition, right? But no 16, 17, 18-year-old ever wants to be younger. So we feel like if we can be relevant, if we can speak to that 16, 17, 18 and into college student, that it'll have a halo effect, and it becomes aspirational for a younger student or a younger person. If we, and I'll be transparent, we kind of got a little young for a while at JanSport, where we were putting out a lot of like playful prints and things like donut prints and maybe unicorn prints, and that really it skewed a little bit younger for the brand. But there's a whole segment of college students that we are interested in connecting with, and that we think JanSport has some unbelievable product benefits for. And so we don't want to alienate that group. We want to make sure that we're relevant for a student at all stages of their journey. And that's why we tend to position the brand with an older student. And it's been amazing in how it has translated to younger groups, and also how relevant we have become to that late high school, early college students.
Yep. So you talked about all the market research that you're doing as you try to better understand the Gen Z consumer. Can you talk about what you're learning from that market research? And that could be across what you're seeing from your own customers at JanSport, but also just non-customers as well. As you think about the Gen Z demographic, what are the behaviors you're seeing? And then my second part to the question would be, with that information, how do you then try to cater to that shopper based on their behavior?
Yeah, so every brand in the world wants this audience, and that makes it highly competitive. Gen Z is the most connected, diverse, enlightened, and busy generation in the history of humanity. So this consumer that JanSport is attempting to connect with has just a lot of things coming at them in their daily lives. They're exposed to so much through the social media content that they enjoy, through their communities. There's just a lot more information out there now, and this generation is hyper connected. They also grew up being exposed, and filtered through social media, sometimes by their parents, kind of celebrating them, posting pictures of them. Like, they've been on social, they were born into social media. So what we're seeing, in their behavior is that they really yearn for a simpler time and for a more real and authentic representation of who they are in those channels, particularly on social media. So, we're seeing the rise of platforms like Be Real, which is a photo sharing app to share those once a day photos of your real life with friends, as opposed to sharing that sort of curated, 60-second, hyper edited, filtered, beautiful representation of yourself. They really want authenticity. And that's where JanSport's been able to connect, because JanSports has never been anything other than who we really are. We started out as an outdoor brand, making backpacks for mountain climbers and technical packs for outdoor folks. And then we've evolved into this backpack that is hyper durable, that people can count on, doesn't break down on you. It's real. We are real. And we've never tried to be anything other than who we really are as a brand. So we're kind of finding that connection with Gen Z, mostly because they're really craving that authenticity that JanSport brings.
So you talk about one of the ways that you're connecting with the Gen Z consumer is through content and marketing messaging. The other piece, and you alluded to there at the end of your answer, is the product itself. So can you talk about how product factors into the equation when trying to attract and retain that Gen Z customer?
Yeah, it's really super important. And I think I said earlier in our chat, Joe, that we went through a period at JanSport where we were kind of making more younger, playful prints, and the product just wasn't resonating with that broader audience that we're trying to reach. Our product is our calling card to young people, and we have to offer something that's relevant to everyone. We consider ourselves a brand for everyone, but we're starting to lean into things that that students really have been asking us for. Make sure we've got water bottle pockets. Make sure that we've got laptop sleeves. Comfortable straps. We've evolved our product line to become more sustainable. So our audience, Gen Z in particular, is really dialed in to where the planet is going, and they pay attention to brands who are trying to put less waste out into the environment and who really are trying to do better when it comes to sustainable practices. So I'm really proud to say 8 out of 10 of our bags are now made from post-consumer recycled plastics. So we use a body material on 85% of our bags that comes from recycled plastics. It's still hyper durable, still stands up, it's still water resistant, but it's also recycled. And that's an innovation that we're really proud to bring to this generation and to everyone. And basically it's kind of table stakes now with Gen Z. They are voting with their wallet and they're telling brands, you're going to have to do better. And we answered that call. It's not just for Gen Z though, it's also internally we have a commitment to being more sustainable, and we work really, really hard on lightening our footprint on the planet.
Yeah, and that's a great effort and a great example of how you think about that in terms of product as well. You mentioned sort of the evolution of the product features and how that's a lot of times based on the feedback you're collecting from your customers. Tell us a little bit about the different ways that JanSport is going about getting that feedback from its customers. And that can be both through engaging them through content, but also, as we talked about, the product itself. Tell us a little bit about that feedback mechanism.
Absolutely. It means everything to us. So one thing we understand about this generation, about Gen Z, is they don't really want to hear about JanSport. They don't really want to know who we think we are. Why should they care? They're much more interested in kind of what their own daily experience looks like and kind of the needs and benefits of their daily lives. And that's understandable. They're in the process of kind of building their own brand and crafting their own way through life in their youth. So we listen to them. And we don't try and tell them who we are. We really try and give them a platform to flex who they are. So yeah, so we've got some things in development around some of the trends around like wanting more soft product, something that's cozier, something that lends a little bit of comfort during the day. So some materials that feel soft to the touch, that are maybe a little bit slouchier. Maybe you could even use a JanSport pack, in the future, maybe as a pillow, to do a little self-care.
Mhm.
So yeah, we're seeing trends in consumer behaviors around taking care of oneself and having products that meet that need. So how do we get that feedback? We do a lot of consumer research. We hire outside firms to talk to bring back insights from our core consumer. We also, we get thousands and thousands of reviews on our product, both on jansport.com and from Amazon. So we scrape those reviews, we document them and really listen to what consumers say about the product and the experience they're having with our product. But that outside research that we do, it means a lot. It brings back a lot of insights for future planning. We've also got, thirdly, this sort of inside think tank. It's our graphics and trend team. And they kind of look at those macro trends that are maybe going to be affecting consumer behavior a year and a half down the road, 2 years down the road. And they kind of bring those into our go-to-market planning so we can understand maybe, where the consumer is going to be vibing, on certain colors or patterns, or maybe even some macro trends like the economy or, gender fluidity, things like that. We try to bring those insights into our process and then create and even sometimes co-create with our consumer to make the most relevant products we can and bring it to market. Yeah.
And I imagine that information, as you collect it, it's not just contained within your team. This is shared with others within the organization. I'm thinking product and merchant teams. The value of sharing this, valuable customer feedback across the organization.
Really valuable. And that's one of the reasons my job was created, because we used to have a head of product, head of merchandising, head of marketing. Now we have one person overseeing all three groups. And that's really allowed us to collaborate in a much more effective way. Some of the insights that we're getting from the product team were absolutely brought into the marketing team, and we're allowed to talk, we're enabled with that information to talk about that to the consumer. And one example I'll give you is one of our product creation managers brought an idea to the table like 2 years ago. They had a family member who is in a wheelchair and couldn't really find a backpack or a bag or a carry solution for all her things while she was in her wheelchair. She kind of had to adapt it herself. And so we started working with people in wheelchairs and asking them, what do you need? What kind of buckles would work for you? Where would you place a specialized bag on your wheelchair? And we looked at numerous different types of wheelchairs, talked to the community, kind of got to know the community, and started building. And we're about to launch probably one of the most important products we've ever launched at JanSport, and that is an adaptive wheelchair pack that is designed specifically for people in wheelchairs. And we're really stoked on that idea, and we've gotten already some just great feedback from the disabled community. And we're really excited to bring this product to market.
Yeah, it's actually a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask next, Monica, in terms of this adaptive collection that you're bringing to market is something that's going to be new for JanSport in 2023. Are there other growth opportunities, growth areas that you're targeting for the brand next year?
Yes. So we're starting to really kind of lean into bags outside of that work kind of outside of just the school experience. So you're going to be seeing more from us in the way of like smaller packs. We call it our half pint, which is like a mini version of our right pack, our iconic right pack backpack. More cross bodies. So just, bags for people who are maybe headed to the music festival or, going on spring break, or just want a small bag to carry. Maybe they're going out at night. They don't want a big backpack. So you'll be seeing more of that from JanSport. We're also looking at some materials, things like a lot of material, trends are coming back from the early 2000s and late 1990s. Corduroy is big right now. So we're looking at some of the softer, cozier materials. They're really trending with Gen Z. And then we've got a pretty amazing collection. I can't talk too much about it, but it is tailored for the college student who, is on the go from morning until night and has to carry everything with them in their pack. They've got a clip on their water bottle, and maybe they got to tie their shoes onto a part of it or need compression in the pack. So we're developing, some solutions for that college student that maybe goes to class and then goes to work and then goes to the gym and then gets back to their dorm. So yeah, lots of exciting things in the pipeline.
No, it's definitely something to look forward to from JanSport in 2023. My final question, when I have, guests like you, Monica, on the show that are really industry experts, I'd like to get, we've talked, solely about JanSport. I want to get more of an industry-wide perspective from you on what you believe the opportunities will be for retailers in 2023 and brands like JanSport. Maybe their challenges that you think are still going to be carrying over. What are your thoughts more on a holistic perspective in terms of challenges and opportunities for retailers and brands in 2023?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and I think it's going to be a very up and down, kind of volatile year. There's still so many unknowns about the economy. We're seeing indicators that are really positive for the economy, and then we're also seeing some consumer behavior pull back on spending in some sectors. So it's an interesting time. I think if to win in 2023. The retailer or the brand really needs to keep an eye on value and delivering value to consumers. What does that mean? Value doesn't necessarily mean price. It means offering a product that lasts, that offers more than just the obvious, that maybe offers things like a return policy or a warranty. We offer a very solid limited lifetime warranty that if something breaks on one of our bags, you can return it and we'll repair it for free and get it right back to you. So I think things like that offer value to consumers, and they don't just want to buy more things, especially young consumers. They want to buy something that lasts. And they're starting to look toward brands that are timeless and that have a heritage and a reputation for not only authenticity, but also lasting and being a durable kind of stalwart in their toolkit. So yeah, I think JanSport fits that bill, but I think it's going to be about value, about durability, and about really servicing a consumer in a way that is more than just kind of a one-off transaction.
Yep. And I think you're doing a great job already, and you've got the momentum started to meet some of those trends in 2023, the work that you've done at JanSport already. So I want to take the opportunity to thank Monica Rigali, the Vice President Global Brand at JanSport, for joining us on this episode of Total Retail Talks. Thank you, Monica.
Joe, it's really been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcasts for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.